Good day. We're going to hold off for one more minute. We're waiting for a couple more people to sign in, but we'll start the presentation in about a minute. In the meantime, you'll notice in the interface there's a spot to be able to ask questions, and we'll gladly answer those at the end of the presentation. Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Mike Lerg. I'm the CTO for Pix Virtual Reality. We also have Chris Sayer on the webinar today, who's our art director. And both of us have worked together for over 20 years, applying virtual reality to numerous industries, but especially for the real estate industry for the last 6 years. And we've never seen it used as extensively as it is today. And one of the things that we're going to be showing is that it's easy to use, it's accessible on your phone, and costs less than traditional floor plans and renderings. So there's some myths about virtual reality. In the past, virtual reality hardware was complicated, required special equipment, lots of cabling and setup required, had external sensors, and you couldn't move it easily from spot to spot. The reality is now you can actually have it on your smartphone, your tablet, on your laptop, as well as some head-mounted displays, which now come as cheap as less than $1 each when bought in bulk for the Google Cardboard or some of these plastic ones that are branded with silk screen printing for your company or your client's logo. And of course, you have the Oculus Quest, which I believe is around $200 at the low end right now, but it gives you a very immersive experience and has the game controllers to be able to navigate and interact with objects in the scene.
And just to hammer that point home too, and Mike says, their phone is technically a VR device. Think about that. Many people think to themselves, oh, I don't have a VR headset or I don't have a VR device. I think all of us do. All of us have smartphones, or I should say, 99.5% of people at this point have a smartphone. And if you do have one, you have a VR-enabled device. So that's a very important point to make. It's not something you need to go invest in. You already have invested in it. You just probably don't realize it.
The other aspect was creating the content was expensive. Building 3D models of existing spaces. The technology is now there that it's very cost effective for us to be able to build 3D models from 2D floor plans, elevations, other reference drawings, as well as some of the other technologies that are based upon using imaging and some technology like photogrammetry and LiDAR, where they translate the pixels from different photographs to determine depth, and LiDAR, which is a laser-based scanning, which the new iPhone and iPads have that capability built in. And so basically for less than the price of one set of floor plans and 2 renderings for a particular client, we actually created a 3D immersive virtual reality experience that was that you can experience over the web on your phone or any mobile device. So that the costs definitely now are competitive. So one of the key things is currently there's 5 million virtual tours visited each day, which helps 75% of people who can't visualize 3D space by looking at 2D drawings. In addition, 75% of people want a tour before visiting properties. And then this combination has led to a 40% reduction in wasted viewings, saving brokers time. And this led to doubling of viewers' interest in listings and their interest in making reservations, increasing the effectiveness for your brokers. So in terms of using virtual reality, excuse me, there's much more increased return on investment the sooner you use it during a project. So if it's used during the design phase, pre-approvals, capital raising, then it can be repurposed in the next phases of development, which then would be for pre-sales, pre-leasing, and therefore that incremental change is a small step to then have a whole new application. And then the third is, of course, when the property is finished, ongoing leasing and sales. And you'll see in a couple of our case studies, some of our clients have achieved 95% or higher pre-lease or pre-sell rates before construction is complete. So we have three product offerings. The first being Quick Tour, which I'll let Chris take over for a second.
Sure. So we've got Quick Tour. And what is Quick Tour? Quick Tour is cost-effective and web-enabled. And what that means is that this is going to be our, our entry-level VR offering, and it works by, going straight to a link in your web browser, which will then load up the VR tour. And so a Quick Tour is quick, inexpensive, and easy to access, and doesn't require you to download anything. You don't have to install anything. Once again, we come back to this very important point of, how accessible and easy is it to get into a VR tour? Quick Tour works on any web-enabled device, meaning your phone, your tablet, your laptop, your computer. And it doesn't matter if it's a Macintosh, an Apple, doesn't matter if it's a Windows-based, doesn't matter if it's running a Linux system, it doesn't matter. So long as you have access to the web and you can launch a web browser, you can get into an interactive VR tour on that device. So that's Quick Tour. Then we have Property Max. So Property Max is going to be, a slightly higher end offering, slightly higher visual quality and fidelity. For some folks, that can be, it can be relative. Some people aren't going to notice the difference between a Quick Tour and a Property Max, but we are able to, to put a slightly more realistic, higher end visual quality to this type of tour. But the most important difference between a Quick Tour and a Property Max tour is the level of customization that we can include in the user interface. Our Quick Tours, as we're going to show you, are very similar across the board. So what changes is the property, the information in the property, and how it looks and how it's rendered. But essentially, the functionality is going to stay the same from one Quick Tour to the next, and we'll show that in a bit. But with Property Max, we can do anything that you want. Sky's the limit. So if you want to have buttons laid out a particular way, you want to show time of day function, you want to do some X-ray views, you want to do anything that you want that you need to have done, we can do inside of Property Max. And this is, because this is a slightly higher end offering, unlike Quick Tour that launches just in a web browser, Property Max is going to require an install, a download, and running on a computer or a device that is capable of running and handling slightly higher end graphics and something of that nature. And then finally, we have our RealFit tool. And the RealFit tool, once again, is a web-enabled tool. But what makes it stand out from Quick Tour and Property Max is that we're putting the ability of demising the space into your hands. So you can do real-time test fits on the fly. And, unlike Quick Tour and Property Max, where we're delivering you the finalized high production, high quality experience, RealFit gives you the ability to lay the space out yourself, put the furnishings in, sit with the client, move walls around, delete a wall here, add a window there, and change the space and come out with multiple layouts on your own to help, run test fits and get the space leased or sold quicker, because you can actually, lay out for what the needs of the client would be for that particular space. So those are our three offerings: Quick Tour, cost-effective web-enabled; Property Max, highly realistic with customization to the interface; and then RealFit, which runs in a web browser and gives you the ability to do the test fits on your own. Okay.
So
And so here we have, yeah, go ahead, Mike.
yeah,
I'll let you take over from here and then I'll talk to it.
so in terms of in the planning stage, um, it's it's difficult to read a 2D site plan and a reference image from a similar property. Pix helped this client actually depict the property, and so you can see here, this is the site plan that we were given from the client, and it has a lot of the markings in here showing where the trees are being removed, the topography as well as the landscape. But again, it's really hard to understand for most people what they're looking at, and most people can't translate a 2D drawing into a 3D model. So
yep, and so this comes back. I just want to make a point here. This comes back to quick tour. So what you're going to be looking at right now is a quick tour experience. And I'm sorry, Mike, not to cut you off. It's just to go through the functionality a little bit as well as what it is that we're going to see. So this is quick tour, and it's running in a web browser, as you can see up at the top of the screen. It's just a simple link. We host the content. So when we create a quick tour, all you have to do is give us the information for the site, and the site or the building or the floor plan of the office or the home or whatever it might be. And then we develop the visuals, we develop the experience, we host the experience as well. And all you have to do is just, wait a couple of days for us to deliver you a link in most cases, depending on how simple the project is. And, if it's slightly more complex, then it takes a few more days beyond that. But essentially, as Mike was saying here, I just want to come back to this real quick and, let you soak this in. This is not easy to understand or figure out. Now, if you're a seasoned professional and you've looked at a million of these things, sure, maybe it is for you. Maybe you do know exactly what you're seeing, and, you can come up here and go, oh, yeah, right off the bat, I know there's two buildings here. I can see a parking lot. I can see all the trees. Like, maybe you can, right? Try explaining it to somebody else that's not a seasoned professional, or maybe somebody else that has seen a million of these things but still doesn't understand them, right? Well, this is where the virtual tours really shine. So we come over here, and immediately from the overall site plan, we can look down and just get a great understanding right off the bat. Oh, here's the parking lot. I don't have to wade through this, 2D information of just, symbols and lines and structures. I can now actually get a photographic view of the site plan. Now, if I come to the side here, and remember, this is all in real-time 3D. So one click of a button in a quick tour like this is going to take us to multiple points of view throughout the model. So now we're jumping over, we're looking at one angle, we're jumping over to another angle, and now finally we're coming over to this side. And so we're getting a really great overview of the site, where the parking lot, sits, and how the trees are, situated throughout the area here, what the angle, looking at different angles, seeing what the entrances of the buildings are and what the design work looks like. And then finally, we can click right into the site. And so we can jump right in here, and from the, from the first person view, I can now walk through the site. So this is very important because we can actually just interact with this scene as if it really exists, as if we're really there, and remove the limitations that people have of trying to interpret a 2D site plan, or maybe even a singular render or two where, you may be looking at a picture and I'm looking at it from this angle, but I don't know what's behind me. Well, you're going to need another render, right? So now you got a render of this, you've got a render of this. Well, maybe, what you wanted was more of an overall view. So now you're looking at three different renders, whereas with a VR tour, you're able to explore, immerse yourself in it, and, walk about it as if you were really there. So we're removing this boundary where, not only do you need more input sets of information for somebody to understand what's going on with traditional methods, but we're also giving you the flexibility and the means of exploring the site however you want. And that's the beauty of this. And the nice thing about this quick tour, as we pointed out here with the quick buttons right up here, and the ability to jump into the scene and walk about, is also this button we have at the bottom here called the auto tour function. And so this is going to run through as if you're watching a movie. So now you're in this immersive environment, but we're going from point to point in the 3D model, and able to jump around and explore without having to do anything at all other than one click. And so this is great in case, you're sharing the scene with somebody that doesn't, feel very comfortable maybe with exploring something like this, even though it's just singular clicks. Or maybe you're giving a presentation to a group of people and you don't want to have to continually interact with the scene and put yourself, in front of the keyboard while you're talking to a group of people. So.
The next aspect is for approvals. This particular site was out in Phoenix, Arizona, and they were expanding the property to include a site plan here, include a new development on this lot. And so they had to get approvals for the total parking that was then going to be combined for this property, as well as make sure that they're within height limitations and some other zoning requirements. And so we were able to very quickly create a series of 360 video tours. Let me jump ahead here. So one thing that, let me pause here. So every frame of the video is a 360 image in this case. And the clients wanted a delivery with this method using this technology. And so with this, we can look anywhere along the path that the camera is rendered along. And one of the things you'll see is these top loft areas for these 2-story units on the top floor. The balconies are recessed and they have a high retaining wall for privacy for the neighbors that are on the west side of the property. And so that was one of the things that we were able to help them understand, help the neighbors and the for zoning approval understand, is that by doing this, we can also jump down to the actual backyard right here. And you can see from the backyard, you can't see the sliding glass doors on that top floor. And so the neighbors were able to know that they're going to have the same level of privacy as the 2-story units that are down this way, down on the site. The other aspect was that the site, there. Way too far. So we also were able to compare to the hotel across the street and show that it was actually a higher building than the new development. So it clearly met the zoning requirements based upon those. So in this case, for capital raising, this particular property actually sold out of its units before construction was complete. And this was phase 1 of the site. And with phase 2, they actually have already pre-sold 80% of the units, and they're still in the process of designing that building. So I'll hand the presentation over to Chris.
Okay, so the first thing I want to come back to this screen really quick. The first thing I want to point out is what you're looking at here. You're seeing these nice looking renderings here. Remember we talked earlier about, the difference between the rendering and the interactive 3D scene, right? And how, you're getting a limited view with a render versus a 3D scene. Well, the great thing about an interactive 3D VR tour is that we offer the ability for free and on your own to be able to capture as many renderings as you want from within the model, which is what they did in this particular case for this property. And so we're going to come back to the 3D tour here. Let's take a look at the page. And as you can see, one of the other things about a VR tour that's great is that it is very easy to access on the web because you can also embed it into your website. And when we looked at the example before, we had this one web page dedicated to the VR tour through the link. Well, this is still operating as a link, but it's embedded in an iframe within the web page. And, you don't need to worry about, if you don't know what an iframe is or anything else like that, don't worry. It's What I'm trying to say is that this is as simple to embed into a website as putting a picture or a video on a web page. So we can embed a VR tour directly into a web page, and you can embed multiple videos, VR tours, as you can see here. But the beauty of this is, let's go full screen. Let's do that. Let's take a look at the property. Once again, clicking up on one of the buttons in the upper right-hand corner, it's going to bring us to these different views. We can take a look at the floor plan view, and then we can, orbit around it. We can pan, we can zoom in, all interactive, all really nice features to have when you want to understand a property to its fullest. Best part is, let's jump right back in, and let's go back to that rendering that we were talking about. So let's say I've got this VR tour here. I really do want some 2D materials that I can pop out into some literature or send somebody a quick image of something. Well, all you have to do is, you look at where you want to look at, press P on the keyboard. That's now going to take a screen capture. And as you can see here, we've got a 2D render from within the 3D scene. And because you're doing it within the 3D scene, you have unlimited number of renders that you can capture. So, think of the power behind that alone. So we're talking about, a render that you're paying for a one-time fee per render in traditional methods. Here, you have a 3D model that's interactive, immersive, that somebody gets to experience and feel like they're really there, as well as the capability of giving you unlimited renders from it. You can take 100 renders from it. You're going to pay the same price for the model. It doesn't matter. Take no renders from it. Doesn't matter. So one-time payment on a 3D VR experience does give you unlimited options in terms of renders and what you're going to do with that model, especially down the line. Maybe the space changes. Maybe you need to add a wall because now new tenants come in and maybe there's some updates to the space. Maybe it's not a home. Maybe it's a business. Maybe you need to redemise walls and you need to republish it, those walls. Once you have the 3D model, you have that through the use and the life of the space. So in addition to that, what we can also do with the VR tour, which is really nice, is we can offer different looks to the fit and finish of the space itself. So right now you can see we have A, B, C, and D here down in the lower right-hand corner. And what that denotes are different packages that are available when looking at this unit. So for package A, we've got this particular flooring, we've got this color paint scheme on the walls, we've got this countertop, and we've got this style of cabinets. And if we come over to the B unit, what that's going to do is that's going to change out our countertops, it's going to change out our floor, it's going to change out our wall color, and we can now experience this floor plan with all of those changes set in place. And then finally, we'll just take a look at one more. So if I come back here, I want to see what the C package looks like. Now we've changed the color of the cabinets, floor once again, walls, countertops, and we can walk through this and get a great understanding of how these changes affect the look and feel of the space and whether or not we find one more favorable to us than the other. And, it's a little bit easier to visualize and understand that in the context of being immersed in a space and interacting with it, rather than somebody showing you some swatches of maybe a paint chip, a floor panel, and and maybe a render or two, and saying, well, here's what the space would look like with this. And then you've got to sit there and you've got to imagine, okay, well, here's what the cabinets might look like, and okay, I can imagine what the paint on the wall looks like with this, and being handed a bunch of pieces to the puzzle doesn't build the puzzle for you. You're still trying to imagine it in your head. And we're taking that, putting it all together and saying, well, here it is. Now go walk through it. And so we're able to visualize something that otherwise would be very difficult for some people to imagine on their own or have a clear understanding of.
So in terms of pre-leasing, we have student housing complex And I'll load up here the application. And this is actually a Property Max application. And I'll let Chris drive while I talk for a little bit. This client, the building was under construction when we were brought on. And with that, they were still making interior design decisions and finishes and decorations. And they were able to work with us and our team. And they used the visualizations we created to actually inform the interior designers what they wanted. So they were able to do what ifs on like that blue wall there. Probably went through 4 or 5 different colors and variations before choosing that particular blue from the paint supplier. And then the wall paneling, the concrete floors, all of that was hand-picked by the client. You notice that there's a touch board, interactive kiosk, as well as the 3 computers. And because we have the ability to do virtual showings of the student housing, real showings, walkthroughs, while it was under construction, and they didn't want to build mock-up staged models off-site, the families were able to interact with that kiosk, and the students, if they wanted to, could use the head-mounted displays and tour through the facility, as well as all the amenities and all of the units themselves. And so with that, I'll hand it over to Chris.
Okay, yeah, and so you can see, as Mike was saying, this was designed, with our help in great detail. So, during the design process and design phase of this, imagine, sitting down with your team and you've got some ideas in place. And so once again, what are you going to do? You're going to put some colored paper. You're going to start, sitting there with different finishes and try and figure out what works best by looking at, maybe mocking up a few images. And then you sit there once again. We talk about the idea of renders versus real-time 3D. In this case, it's very valuable to be able to sit there and change the paint wall, the color of the wall with the paint with one click, and change it on the fly and say, okay, well, let's see what it looks like if it were orange, if it was green, if it was gray. And this space is obviously very eclectic. It's very different from what most places would look like, and it's a little bit extreme in some cases. But we're able to come to a very, a nice medium with helping the client by visualizing it in VR before anybody ever made a purchase of any material or sat down and had to do another step of the design process on their own with, pen and paper and ink and paint and everything else. With that said, also, as Mike said, this is a Property Max tour. So just to point out, you're going to see a slightly different interface here, and we have the ability to customize this far greater than we could with a quick tour. And, this is a slightly higher end, set of visualizations here. As if you remember from outside, there was cars running down the street. Got a full site plan with a whole bunch of life going on, around the site, and we can do animations in here and all sorts of great things. But let's just jump into one of the units real quick just to show off what this looks like. So once we're in here, we can even collapse this. So we can take this guy down off to the side. There we go. So we can collapse the user interface. We can walk through the space. And as you can see, we've got a nice, set of furnishings and staging going on in this unit. And each one of the units are individually staged. So, we can look at it and they're unique in many ways. So we've got a different type of, signage in this one. We've got different, materials on the couch for each one. And each of the bedrooms are unique and have a very different character from one unit to the next. So let's walk down the hall here. We'll go in just to one of these rooms and look at them. And you can see we can traverse the entire unit going into a room. And then we can ultimately walk into the bathroom, look at how the bathroom's laid out, the nice colors, the carpeting, the trim, decorations on the walls. And then we can walk out once again, explore each room and each area. And this was made with a VR headset in mind. So imagine putting on, a VR headset and then clicking on the ground or just pushing forward on the joystick and walking through and seeing through the lens of the VR headset that you're actually in the space. And it's a really compelling experience. But the other thing to keep in mind too is while this was made for a VR headset, you do not need to have a VR headset to run it. This is running obviously right on Mike's computer, and I am remote controlling it. So this shows that you can even remote control a 3D scene like this and be able to give a tour to somebody while you're doing a screen share with them. And then the other thing I want to point out is we're going to go to the outside. So you've seen a little bit of the inside. Let's go take a look at what the outside looks like. And we're going to go straight to the pool side because what shows off, the fun and the beauty of the site, like the pool side. So if you're going away from home for the first time and you're looking to move out of state and you're going to be staying somewhere, what's going to really sell you on coming to live here at a site which is not built yet versus somebody that's down the street? Well, being able to take a tour virtually, being immersed in it, and seeing the potential and understanding, here's the hot tub, here's the fireplace, here's the pool with the nice water, seeing all the different deck chairs laid out, and then looking up and seeing the gazebos and the ping pong tables and the grills. And, you try and explain all of this in a render or two, or in a picture, or you just tell somebody, by the way, we're going to have this great poolside, and you're going to really love it here. That's not going to cut it when they have all these other options of places that are already developed in the area that they can go visit and they can see. In this case, this made perfect sense to the client, and obviously it helped get them completely leased out.
And then we have for pre-sales, this is a home that was built for LaSalle in a phased development. And one of the key aspects of this site when it was delivered was when the designers and the developers first walked through, they realized there's some changes that they should make to improve upon the space. The first being they rotated the stairs to be oriented from the doorway, because originally you had to walk towards the doorway. So you'd have to walk halfway down the hall, do a U-turn, come back down, go to the basement, do a U-turn. So that was more streamlined. They realized that having a long hallway, this corner was not glass for this home office. It was originally walled in and as a small kind of home theater, but it then gave a very tunnel vision from the front door, and you could only see the living room at that point. So by being able to see through the glass, it opens up and makes it feel more like a great room than it is. I'll let Chris take over from here.
Yeah, and you can see right there, I mean, the ability to visualize and feel a space, before it's even available to the market is invaluable. If you can walk through and you can experience your vision put into a real environment, into a virtual environment before it's, actually, studded up and built, you get a really great understanding of the limitations as well as what's working for a space, what makes it feel, great. And in this case, like Mike said, opening this up so that you could see through it not only helped to make this area feel more open and larger, it also helped make this office area feel like it wasn't closed off to the rest of the world, and made it feel a little bit more inclusive and gave it a dynamic sense of openness that you wouldn't get if this were closed off. It would make the space feel much smaller in comparison. And then the other thing, once again, we come back here and we look at something like this and we say, okay, well, this is great. We can do the overhead floor plan. Once again, we can take a look at the home. We can get an understanding of where each of the bedrooms are. We can see the living room. And so, right off the bat, we've got the ability to do a floor plan view right in the 3D scene once again. And then if we come down here and let's go back to the kitchen real quick. So one button press is going to take us over here to the kitchen, right where we were before. And let's say we want to render. We want to take some images from this because it looks so nice. So I'll look over here. I'll say be on the keyboard. That's going to then once again take that screen capture, and it's going to be of high fidelity, and for us to be able to put up on a website, print, or just send an image in an email if somebody wants more information on it. So we got that, and then let's take a look around here. And once again, just to show it off, don't forget we've got the auto tour function built in here. So this is going to go through, it's going to give an automatic tour through the 3D space of all the different amenities, the areas, and everything that makes this space, you know, as nice as it is. And you don't have to even lift a finger. And that's one of the nice aspects of the 3D tour as well.
So when it comes to finished properties and doing ongoing leasing, this particular project was a property that the client wanted to depict 3 different ways in terms of how the space could be laid out for some what-if scenarios. And then we're also able to personalize and rebrand a space, put your client's logo at the reception desk, for example, and have take an existing quick tour, and within an hour or two, change the reception area, have it be branded for a particular presentation, and have that up there for your use with your clients. But also you'll see those more drastic changes that have been done in terms of redemising the space.
Yeah, and as you know, as we're talking about this comes back to that point of, you know, the life cycle of the property, right? So we've got this office space here, and the previous tenant is now moved out, and you've got some other people that are interested in it, but they don't know if it's a good fit for them. Well, let's find out. So, you know, in this case, we've got these offices that are laid out along the back here. You can see we've got a little break area, got the break room, and then we've got, you know, a couple of servers in here, and we've got this open office with the receptionist, and finally we've got a conference area sitting over here. Well, what if that's not going to work for somebody else, right? We're going to come over here. Let's take a look at a different design layout. So now we've changed out the way the offices are here. So we've got now a 3-in-1 with the conference room breaking up that area in the back here. We've changed the layout and the number of desks that are in the open office here. We've also added a wall here next to the receptionist. So now you have to come in here, you have to come around there. And then finally in the back, we have our break area where there used to be a conference room. And so the layout and the feel, and also we've removed the racks and we've got the another office set up here. So now we can start contrasting and comparing the 2 different layouts and see, you know, just how different they are. And then finally, what if we want to take that space and we want to break it up into 2, right? Well, we can do that in VR, which is really nice. So we can look at this and we can see how we've got the receptionist with, you know, the privacy wall set up here so that you can either go to the left or you can go to the right. Each office is going to be treated separately. We've also got some different finishes on the floor here. So we've got a particular type of carpet on this side. We've got a different one here. And then also the desks and the chairs have been laid out differently, as well as being different styles of desks. And then if we jump right into one of the tours, we can walk through the space and get a feeling of what this feels like if we were actually in it. So what does this feel like if we're actually walking through, immersed in the space? And another thing to point out that's really, really great about the VR tours is that we can have videos inside of the experience. So we can have videos that just play on their own, or a video that plays when you click on it. So maybe you want some information embedded, maybe you want some branding embedded into the VR tour. That's something that is very easy for us to do as well. And you know, you can see that as you're walking through the space, it's much easier to understand exactly what's going on here. We're stuck on the door. There we go. Much easier to understand than if we're looking at a few renders or we're trying to explain to somebody exactly how this office would be laid out. And once we run through this in a VR tour, it helps to, you know, define to the client what's available currently and what they could do with the space to help make it work better for their needs in terms of layout, fit, and function, and making sure also that the head count works for them.
This next project was done for a client that was the owner architect for the building. Trek was actually subletting a space within the building, and the owner was getting ready to sell the building. At the same time, Trek was getting ready to move out of the building and actually build themselves a new regional headquarters in that community and set up shop in a large building rather than having a small portion of this building. And the client had us depict the property three ways. One was the as-is condition, which is loading up now as we speak. Second was all non-structural walls were removed, so just the structural elements were in there, so show the maximum open spaces if it was clearly cleared out. And then third was then the version that we'll show in a minute that actually is branded for Trek and actually had some functionality added to it that the clients were discussing to meet their needs to have it become the whole building become a regional headquarters.
So pay attention here to the finish of the outside here. So in the current structure, we've got this brickwork here. We've got these very long windows, very thin, long bar-like windows. There is no branding on the building. The building is all glass. It's an appealing looking building, but nothing that speaks directly to any particular type of customer, right? Or any type of person that would be in the building. Let's take a look at the second floor. Nice open floor plan of the current layout. And let's take a look over here at this corner and let's focus on this for a minute. So, with this VR tour, we're able to clearly understand where all the offices are, what the open space looks like, the color. We're able to take a, fly around view. We can jump right into it. Let's just go jump right into it. So we can come in here, we can drop down, we can see the ceiling, we can walk through as if we're really in the space. But, in the sense of the building actually existing, there's going to be some, it's a great tour and all, but it's not going to be necessary for everybody because you can show the building, it's there already, right? It's great for showing if you're not on site or nowhere near the site and you're interested in the building. So, there's 100, 1,000 valid reasons to put a VR tour together of a space that exists, but you could also, just as equally do a image capture tour of the building in a Matterport or something similar and say, here's the building. Well, this is where the VR tour shines over something like that is, here we have this existing structure with its existing walls. Well, what if you do need to, go to somebody else and say, I want you to envision yourself in this space. I want you to take a look at this building. I want you to imagine that this is no longer the same looking building, but this is tailored to be a Trek building. And so now what we've done with a VR tour that you cannot do in Matterport or something similar is we've opened up the windows here. So now we've got these nice windows that are, no longer feeling like a jail cell. We've got the materials on the outside changed out to be much more, inspired with the look and feel of what Trek's corporate image is. And then we've also got obviously we've got their logo up front. And then if we come around here to the left-hand side of the building, you can also see once again, we've got the color scheme, we've got their logo, and we've got some other design elements that all kind of speak more to Trek, the Trek in mind. Now, if this was another client, this would be a completely different layout and design and look, and we can do that over and over again. Once again, the VR model is good over the life cycle of the building. Doesn't matter what the layout and the design is, we can always update, change, and help to market it and keep it current. So now let's take a look at that area that we were just looking at before and see how we're able to visualize it and experience it. Now, where we had offices all along this perimeter of walls, we've opened it up. We've put a stage here. We've got some screen with some Trek-inspired graphics running. And then also we've got all these bikes throughout the area here, throughout these different areas here of the museum. So this is kind of a museum space now, and it's got the history of Trek. So we've got all these different Trek bikes. We've got graphics on the walls. We've got conference rooms for people to sit and talk and meet. And then we can take a walk through and we can take a look at exactly how this feels now, where we've got the ceiling tiles have been removed. So it's a very open, very high-tech office feel. We've got these spotlights up here, and we can ultimately experience the space in an immersive fashion in a web page. Remember, this is running inside of a web page. That's what really makes this pretty amazing, is that anybody with a phone to a tablet to a laptop to a computer, it doesn't matter if it's a Chromebook or not, or anything else, you can just walk through it, just experience it. And that's the beauty of this, is the fidelity married with the ease of use and the ability to deliver it to the masses without worrying about whether or not somebody's going to be able to experience the VR tour. It just works, period. And so as we come throughout here, we can see exactly why this space would be appealing to Trek, what makes it feel inspired for their branding, and how this change in layout would work for them versus the way the current build of the building is.
And this third example for finished properties, this building was a shuttered Chase Bank on the first floor with some office spaces on that floor and then office spaces on the 3 floors above. And it had been vacant for several years. And so it was highly vandalized, graffiti throughout the courtyard, throughout the walkways that were exposed. And then when you walked through the space, there was lights hanging from the ceilings. It was basically a very unsafe place to try to tour, and definitely not photo ready. And so we were able to provide a virtual tour of this space and all of the floors that then allowed the client to approach the property for sale.
Yeah, so let's see what one of these floors looks like, minus the graffiti, minus the ceiling lights missing and hanging off, and the beer bottles and the broken glass. So we come over here, we drop right down to the elevator level on the outside. And what's nice about this particular building, which is somewhat unique, you don't see this all the time, is that they've got this kind of open courtyard feel, so that you can come to the edge here, and then you can look down and you can see the plants and everything that are in the courtyard, and it goes all the way up into the sky right in the center here. So that's a nice feature that we can show off here. And then, as you walk down, we can go throughout the entire third floor. We can tour anything from the first to the, to the fourth floor. And let's walk down here. Much more presentable than the pictures that we really can't show because there's so much graffiti and so much profanity throughout the entire space. And you wouldn't want to have somebody come into this building. It's somewhat not presentable, and it's also a safety hazard. And with a VR tour, we're able to give a complete walkthrough and a complete understanding of the space and the layout of every office in here, from the bathrooms to the break room to all of the different units that are available to be leased or sold, just with a single web link that works right inside your web browser. So I'm hoping that a lot of the stuff that we've shown really does dispel some of those myths about VR, because a lot of times people think of VR, they think of something that's expensive. They think something that's clumsy, that's hard to use, it's hard to understand and expensive. And, and all these tours are hopefully showing that that is not the case, that it is inexpensive. It's on par with traditional renderings. It also is very easy to use. All you gotta do is click a button and you're gonna go anywhere you want inside the tour. It works on, any device that has a, web connection to it. And, and finally, you don't even need a headset for it either. I mean, if you do want to take a true tour of it in 3D with a head-mounted display, you can always pop your phone into one of those plastic cases and just walk throughout it and have a traditional VR, immersive VR experience, or, just run it on your laptop or computer. and experience a space like that.
So in summary, basically we've shown that virtual reality is cost effective, it's easy to use, it serves multiple purposes over the life cycle of the property, from design and pre-approvals through pre-leasing and sales, through them leasing and sales, and even redemising and repurposing and reimagining a space, especially with the pandemic. A lot of office spaces as well as the hotels are getting converted. Shopping malls are getting converted over to distribution centers for Amazon, things like that. We can do those types of visualizations of what the future state of the property will be. And then it works for existing properties for pre-construction as well as the renovations that I was just mentioning. And then of course it helps you be differentiated from your other competitors, and it provides you all the channels of marketing. So with that link and being able to either just put it on your listing page, embed it as an iframe as Chris was discussing. It could be a QR code in your printed materials. There's basically every way that you're currently doing marketing with traditional and digital media, the quick tours can be incorporated into all of it. And of course, it then reduces the marketing and holding costs because it expedites the sales and the leasing. And you're again able to get as many renderings as you want. So you saw those web pages and websites that were populated, and some of the other pages were just the floor plans. And those pages were populated with 9 images per suite, per unit and layout. And all those were created from the virtual scene for free. And that's, of course, that's then a higher return on investment and lower cost because the investment is spent up front, say during the design phase, and then each incremental change to make a new function and new delivery is incremental and much lower cost for the return on investment on a per delivery through the life cycle of the building. So at this time, if there's any questions, please feel free to post them in the question form in the user interface for the GoToWebinar. We'll be glad to answer any of those that you have.
Or even just talk to us if you have a mic. Doesn't even matter. There's so few people here right now that, if you feel like just talking to us directly, feel free to.
I don't think I have any questions,
Hey,
but thank you guys for this. This was awesome. Thanks a lot.
Certainly, I'm glad to do it. And this is the replay. This will be going out to everyone who registered for the event. So, all right, well, have a good rest of your day and a good weekend coming up. Have a good day.